Hello everyone, welcome to Oliveboard. So this is the CAIIB Foundation series for July 2025 and we are discussing each and every unit from all the modules of our BRBL paper here, and today we are going to discuss the unit 18B from module C. So we are discussing the under the DRT Act, the establishment of tribunal, appellate tribunal. So whenever the banks or any financial creditor they want to exercise their rights of debt recovery under the DRT Act, they can refer to the Debt Recovery Tribunal or the Debt Recovery Appellate Tribunal, wherein the highest officers will be the presiding officer and the chairperson respectively. So who has the right to establish the tribunal? Who decides the jurisdiction? Who has the power to decide the jurisdiction? Then the appointment as the presiding officer, what is the qualification and the tenure, the qualification and tenure of the chairperson of the appellate tribunal, right? So all of these things are covered under this chapter. So before we start, make sure that you like the video and you share it with your fellow aspirants as well. And if you haven't seen the previous chapters videos, they're already available on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you watch all of these as these are very important for your exam preparation. So let us begin with today's session. All right. First, when we are talking about the tribunals, we have already discussed the DRTs and the DRATs, the definitions of these tribunals, the definitions of the presiding officer and the chairperson. So, who has the power to establish the tribunal? It is with the central government. So, the central government is empowered to establish one or more tribunal to be known as the Debt Recovery Tribunal to exercise its jurisdiction, powers, and authority. So, if in a particular area any unpaid dues arise or the banks they want to file an application, they need to see in which DRT's jurisdiction they fall. Okay. Also, the central government can decide and specify the areas within which the tribunal may exercise its jurisdiction for entertaining and deciding the applications. We have already seen wherever the tribunals are in force, they are established, only they are going to deal with these cases of recovery. So the civil courts will no longer have jurisdiction or right to intervene. And whenever the government decides to exercise these powers, take decisions of establishing one or more tribunals or increasing or decreasing their jurisdiction, they have to notify it in the official gazette of the government, and it will deemed to have public notice. It will be deemed to have public notice. All right. Then if we talk about the composition of the tribunal, so the tribunal is made up of only one person, which is known as the presiding officer. The presiding officer who is going to accept the application, they will see the application is submitted by the creditor in the right manner, providing all the documents and information that is required. And the appointment, as we have already seen, is done by the central government by issuing a notification in the official gazette, right? Also, if let's say the central government they decide that a tribunal 1 in a particular area under its jurisdiction is working with a presiding officer, and a tribunal 2 is working in their area with another presiding officer, but for some reason, let's say the presiding officer of the tribunal 2 is absent temporarily. So the central government can also authorize the presiding officer of one tribunal to discharge the functions of the presiding officer of another tribunal. So who has the right to take this decision? Again, it is vested with the central government. So the presiding officer will take on the functions. All right, there can be other reasons also. So if the central government is satisfied, then they are going to authorize the presiding officer of one tribunal to discharge the functions of the presiding officer of another tribunal also, or they can also be a common presiding officer for both these tribunals. All right. Then if we talk about the qualification of the presiding officer, we have already seen that the appointment will be done by the central government, but there's an eligibility criteria. For an entity to be eligible to be appointed or qualified to be appointed as a presiding officer, they should have been, or they should be at least qualified to be appointed as a district judge. So a person is qualified for the appointment as presiding officer of a DRT if they have been, if they are, or they are at least qualified to be appointed as a district judge. Even acting district judges can be appointed as the presiding officer. But the presiding officer of a tribunal, when they're appointed, they're going to hold an office for a term of 5 years from the date on which they enter upon the office, or till or until they attain the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. So we talk about the tenure and the qualification. Qualification is that of a district judge. Tenure is either 5 years of office term or 65 years of age, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. So if you're making your own notes, make sure that you make these types of notes: the presiding officer, qualification, and tenure. Right. Then we have the establishment of the Appellate Tribunal for hearing of the appeals passed for appeals against the orders of the DRT. We'll be seeing the procedure for filing the appeal, in how many days the appeal should be filed. Is there a certain amount of the award that has to be paid before filing the appeal? These are there in the next few chapters. So if we talk about the establishment, so again the central government is empowered to establish one or more appellate tribunals, and these will be known as the debt recovery appellate tribunal. They are going to exercise the jurisdiction, powers, and authority. Again, the similar provisions are there. The central government is also empowered to decide and specify the areas within which the tribunal may exercise, and these decisions have to be notified in the official gazette, right? Also, the officer of the appellate tribunal here will be known as the chairperson, and the appointment shall be done by the central government. So the person who is going to oversee the tribunal, the DRT, is the presiding officer, and the person who is going to oversee the appellate tribunal hearing of the appeals is known as the chairperson of the DRAT. The chairperson of the DRAT. Then if we talk about the qualification of the chairperson of the DRAT, so as per section 10 of the act, a person shall not be qualified for the appointment of the chairperson of an appellate tribunal unless, so this is given in a negative sense, but what we mean is that the minimum qualification of any person to be appointed as a chairperson is that they are they have been in the past, or they are at least qualified to be a judge of the high court. So first, if we talk about the qualification of the chairperson, so the judge of high court, then they should have been a member of the Indian legal service and held a post of grade of that service for at least 3 years. So member of the Indian legal service for 3 years, or, and we are referring it as or they have held the office of the presiding officer for at least 3 years. So qualified to be a judge of high court, then member of the Indian legal service for 3 years, or they have held the position of a presiding officer of a DRT for at least 3 years. So this is a conditional. Compulsory is the judge of high court, conditional Indian legal service or the presiding officer for at least 3 years. This is the qualification. And then for the tenure, they are going to hold the office for a term of 5 years from the date of commencement of their service, or until they attain the age of 70 years. So this is a difference in their tenure. Both in terms of the term of office, the presiding officer and the chairman are going to hold the office for a term of 5 years. But if we talk about their age, so the maximum age for which they can keep the office, they can hold the office, for the presiding officer it is 65 years, and for the chairperson of the DRAT it is 70 years, whichever is earlier, right? Also, there are provisions related to the vacancy, the staff of the tribunal. So the staff, one or more recovery officers will again be provided by the central government or other officers and employees of the government, and they will be under the superintendence of the presiding officer for the DRT. Then, if there are any vacancies at the tribunal or the appellate tribunal, so if there occurs any vacancy that is not of a temporary nature, that is the person has resigned, the presiding officer has resigned from their post, or they have been removed from their post, right? So what will happen here? The appointments will again be made by the central government. And when such appointments are made, this is to be made very clear that the proceedings that were going on before the earlier presiding officer of the tribunal or the chairperson of the appellate tribunal, they are going to continue from the stage where they were left. So when the presiding officer or the chairperson, they vacate their office, or their position for a permanent nature, not a temporary but a permanent reason, then the new presiding officer or chairperson will be appointed by the central government, and they are going to start from the stage where the proceedings had been left. The same stage. Fresh proceedings will not begin. This is regarding the vacancies. If we then talk about the finality of the orders constituting the tribunal or the appellate tribunal. So when the central government is appointing any person as the presiding officer of the DRT or the chairperson of the DRAT, then it shall not be called in question in any manner. So no decision of the central government can be called in question in any manner. So the decision of the central government in the appointment of the presiding officer or the chairperson, it cannot be questioned. Similarly, the order, if any order is passed by the DRT or the DRAT, that act or the proceeding can also not be questioned in any manner. So no act or proceeding before the DRT or the DRAT can be questioned merely on any defect in the constitution of a tribunal or the appellate tribunal. So this is regarding the finality of the order. So the order of the government or order of the DRT and the DRAT are considered final. Finally, if we are talking about the vacating of the post by the presiding officer, so the presiding officer or the chairperson, they can resign by giving a notice of 3 months. So they can, by a written notice of 3 months, resign their office. And if the presiding officer of a tribunal has to be removed, then it will be removed only by an order of the central government and on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. So if the chairperson of the DRAT, they find that the presiding officer is engaged in some misbehavior or incapacity in taking decisions or giving their orders, they are going to make a written notice detailing all the information regarding the occurrence of the misbehavior or incapacity. They will furnish this to the central government, and the final decision will be taken by the central government. Again, regarding the removal of the presiding officer, we have the provisions in detail that we are going to discuss in the further units. All right. So for today, that is all. We have summarized this unit 18B, which talks about the tribunals and the appointment of the presiding officers and the chairpersons. Now you can also join the CAIIB Super Elite plan, and if you want to join this plan, the link is there in the description box. It is an all-in-one plan where live classes, mock tests and notes will be provided to you. Mock tests that are sectional as well as full length, numerical, and case study. Everything will be provided to you. And if you subscribe now, then it will guarantee 100% success, because the exam dates are also out and the classes are also started for all the papers. So thank you so much for attending. Make sure that you share this video with others as well, and you watch all the other units, because these are very important from the exam point of view. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you do not miss any of the updates. You can also download the PDF from the link given in the description box. I'll see you again tomorrow with the next unit. Till then, thank you and